Level 1. The veil. You're not asleep. Not yet. But you're no longer fully awake either. You're drifting in that unstable borderland between awareness and nothingness. Neuroscientists call it hypnagogia. It isn't a dream. It's the loading screen. As your brain begins powering down the outside world, the systems don't shut off cleanly. They stutter. They crosstalk. Logical thought dissolves, replaced by flashes of raw, unfiltered sensation. And that's when you start to see it. Pulsing grids, shimmering webs of light, endless spirals and tunnels that seem to breathe behind your closed eyes. Nearly a century ago, researcher Heinrich Klüver carefully documented these visuals. He called them form constants, geometric patterns hardwired into the visual cortex itself, revealed only when external light disappears. Picture a default wallpaper built into the brain, activating when the input signal goes dark. But this space isn't just abstract geometry. This is also where the day refuses to let go. Psychologists call it the Tetris effect. Whatever you repeated for hours begins replaying itself. Lay bricks all day, and blocks keep falling in your mind. Stare at code, and ghostly lines of syntax scroll through the darkness. Your brain is desperately sorting, compressing, and filing the day before it can move on. And sometimes, the process goes wrong. You feel it as a sudden drop. That violent jolt. The sensation of falling into nothing. And then snapping back into your body. That's a hypnic jerk. Some evolutionary scientists believe it's a leftover survival reflex, a prehistoric alarm from our tree-dwelling ancestors, designed to keep them from slipping off a branch in their sleep. Other times, it's sound instead of motion. A thunderclap, a gunshot, a bang so loud it feels external. It isn't. It's something known as exploding head syndrome, your auditory system misfiring as it shuts down, like a circuit breaker snapping mid-transition. This first level isn't meant to be explored. It's unstable, chaotic, a shimmering membrane between worlds. And you can't stay here, because beyond this veil lies the deeper architecture of dreaming itself. And once you pass through, there's no easy way back. Level 2. The static. You've crossed the veil. This is the shallow end of sleep. Early non-REM territory. And if dreams were ever going to be dismissed as meaningless noise, this is where the argument sounds strongest. Brain activity slows into soft, rolling theta waves. Nothing dramatic. Nothing cinematic. There are no stories here. No plots. No characters you can follow. Instead, you drift through a broken slideshow. A face you almost recognize. A bicycle. A teacup floating in empty space. No cause. No connection. Just fragments. Neuroscientists believe this is your hippocampus emptying its pockets. The brain's short-term memory system dumping raw data before it can be sorted or erased. Imagine a film reel made of discarded frames. Moments clipped from your day with no order and no meaning attached. 1 second, the texture of your keyboard. The next, the color of a car that cut you off in traffic. Then nothing. These microdreams last only seconds. Most vanish without a trace. They're almost never remembered. This is the brain's first, clumsy attempt at organization. Not elegant. Not symbolic. Just sensory residue bubbling up before sinking away again. And here's the strange part. You spend nearly half your night in this state. A cerebral junkyard. A holding zone for the day's leftovers. This isn't the mythic dreamscape people talk about. This is maintenance. The brain sweeping the floor, taking out the trash. But even trash tells you something. Because what appears in this static, no matter how random, comes straight from what you focused on while awake. It's the purest imprint of your daily life, untouched by interpretation. And soon, your subconscious will take that raw material and begin reshaping it into something else entirely. Something structured. Something meaningful. And that's when the real dreaming begins. Level 3. The forge. The data dump is over. Now the real construction begins. As you sink deeper into sleep, the noise fades, and something heavier takes its place. The dream is still unfinished, more space than substance, but it's no longer random. This is where the brain stops sorting and starts building. Not stories, not characters, feelings. Your emotional core takes control. The amygdala steps in and overrides logic, pulling memories not by importance, but by intensity. Fear, desire, anxiety, euphoria. These aren't recalled as events. They're extracted as raw emotional charge. Molten material. A missed deadline doesn't replay as an office or a clock. It becomes a vast, empty desert. Color drained. A sickly green sky pressing down from above. A surge of past triumph doesn't return as a memory. It blooms into impossible light. An endless field, oversaturated, vibrating with warmth. At this level, emotion is geography. There are no people yet. No narrative. No cause and effect. Just space shaped by feeling. Dream researchers describe this process as selective simulation. The brain builds a minimalist world, stripped of detail, designed to embody one dominant emotional state. A stage with no actors, only atmosphere. It's the archetype of the void, but not an empty one. This is your mind stress testing its own emotional circuitry, translating internal pressure into external form, rendering feelings into something you can almost walk through. And this landscape matters, because once it's set, everything that follows will happen inside it. The deeper you go, the more crowded it becomes. And soon, the void will no longer be empty. Level 4. The echo chamber. The stage is ready. The emotional terrain has been laid down, and now something begins to move through it. Shadows from your waking life drift in. This is the core of memory reconsolidation. A messy, vital process where your brain decides what stays and what quietly disappears. Feeling alone is no longer enough. Now, you relive. The hippocampus and the neocortex enter a rapid back and forth, replaying experiences, strengthening some neural paths, weakening others. What emerges isn't a memory. It's a distortion. You're back at work, but the floor crumbles like sand beneath your feet. Your computer droops and melts. You try to make coffee, and the machine erupts with angry wasps. These aren't symbols yet. They're system errors. Your brain is running diagnostics on its own memory files, and some of those files are damaged. This is where the infamous airport dream lives. You're rushing. Late. The gate number keeps changing. Your suitcase is impossibly heavy, filled with bricks. The departure board might as well be written in an alien language. It feels symbolic, but it isn't. Not yet. It's a direct expression of cognitive frustration, your brain attempting to complete a task and failing in real time. The task of sorting, storing, and stabilizing memory. That's why the logic fractures. Memories here are being pulled apart, examined, and reassembled on the fly. Nothing lines up because nothing is finished. This isn't a movie. It's biology. You're standing inside your mind's own archive, watching spectral librarians scramble through endless shelves, misfiling chapters of your life just to see what still holds together. But the chaos doesn't last forever, because once the brain decides what stays, it does something entirely new with it. And that's when the dream starts telling stories of its own. Level 5. The puppet show. This is the turning point. Up to now, your brain has been sorting, testing, and reshaping raw material. But here, something new happens. Meaning enters the room. The core emotion has been forged. The memories have been replayed and destabilized. Now your mind tries to explain why it feels the way it does. But there's a problem. The language centers of your brain are mostly offline. No words. No inner monologue. So the brain speaks the only language it has left. Symbols. Metaphors. Stories. Anxiety no longer exists as atmosphere alone. It becomes a narrative. You're being chased. The figure behind you feels real. Urgent. Terrifying. It might wear your boss's face, but it isn't your boss. It's a puppet. A stand-in. A physical embodiment of unresolved pressure and fear. The story doesn't follow logic. It follows emotion. When your legs feel glued to the ground as you try to run, that's not broken physics. That's precision. A perfect translation of helplessness into motion. Psychologist Carl Jung believed these figures are drawn from a shared reservoir of human imagery, a collective unconscious filled with recurring forms. The shadow, the pursuer, the mysterious stranger, the guide who knows more than you, the silent watcher. These aren't random. Most symbolic dreams revolve around just a handful of themes: identity, desire, fear, loss, or conflict. The classic dream of your teeth crumbling and falling out isn't about dentistry. It's a symbolic performance about losing control or being judged. Your brain takes something complex and unbearable to process directly and distills it into a simple, universal play. No dialogue, no explanation, just images that feel true. And in this strange theater, you are both the audience and the main character. But the show isn't over, because at the next level, the puppets begin to move on their own. Level 6. The hollow deck. The puppets aren't enough anymore. The story needs to become real. At this level, you drop into the deepest phase of REM sleep, where the dream stops behaving like a narrative and starts functioning like a world. A high-fidelity simulation. Brain activity surges, nearly matching your waking state. But the outside world is cut off. The thalamus, the brain's sensory gatekeeper, slams the door shut. No signals come in. Nothing gets through. The only reality left is the one being generated inside your skull. And it isn't just visual. You hear voices. You feel heat on your skin. You taste bitterness. You smell smoke in the air. The experience is complete. So complete that your motor cortex joins in. You swing at a monster. Your brain sends the command to your arms. You sprint from a tidal wave. Your legs receive the signal. The only reason you don't explode out of bed is a tiny cluster of cells in the brainstem that pulls the emergency brake. They induce REM autonia, near total muscle paralysis. Your mind is racing through an action movie at full speed, while your body is locked down, immobilized, trapped in place. That's why sleepwalking rarely happens during vivid dreams. It occurs in shallower stages, before this lock engages. The hollow deck is the brain's ultimate virtual reality system, a simulator capable of building entire worlds in real time with breathtaking realism. A training ground, a playground, sometimes a torture chamber, all powered by the most advanced processor known to exist, the human brain. But once the simulation stabilizes, something unexpected begins to emerge. The world feels real. And now, the characters inside it start feeling real too, as if they're watching you back. Level 7. The agents. Welcome to the point where dreams stop feeling empty. These aren't the symbolic cutouts from the puppet show anymore. These figures talk back. They hold conversations. They interrupt you. They surprise you. Sometimes, they tell you things you didn't consciously know. A dream character offers a solution to a problem you've been wrestling with for weeks. Another delivers advice with unsettling clarity. It happens so often that history is filled with examples. Writers, inventors, scientists who credited dream figures with their greatest breakthroughs. Entire ideas delivered by someone who never existed. So what are these agents? Neuroscientists argue they're internal processes wearing human faces, different cognitive systems communicating through narrative. Freud would have called them expressions of the ID. Jung believed they were fragmented aspects of the self, waiting to be integrated. All of those explanations may be true, but none of them prepare you for the experience. Because from inside the dream, it doesn't feel theoretical. It feels like you're meeting someone, an entity that isn't you, yet somehow knows everything about you. They argue. They get offended. They show compassion. They push back when you resist. They have motives. And that's where the boundary blurs. The dream is no longer just a world generated by your mind. It feels like a world being generated for you, populated by autonomous beings who know your fears, your desires, your regrets. Because they are those things, just wearing a face. And if you think that's unsettling, the next level strips away the illusion that you're just a visitor in this world. Level 8. The glitch. You're deep inside a flawless simulation. The world is stable. The agents are alive. Everything makes sense. And then, the rules collapse. This isn't the strange emotional logic of earlier dreams. This is something more violent. Reality itself begins to tear. You lift off the ground, not by effort, but by intention. Walls lose their solidity. You step through them like mist. You read a sentence in a book. Look away. Look back. The words are different. Clocks run backward. Gravity hesitates. Cause and effect quietly dissolve. This happens because the brain's logic engine, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, has gone nearly offline. The part of you responsible for reasoning, consistency, and critical thinking simply isn't supervising the system. With no constraints, the simulation runs free. And that freedom is intentional. This isn't a malfunction. It's an exploration. Your brain is testing impossible scenarios, bending reality to see what might emerge. This is where creativity is born, where solutions appear that logic couldn't reach while awake. But it's also deeply unsettling, because the glitch exposes the truth. This world isn't solid. It's editable. For most dreamers, the moment passes as pure strangeness, something bizarre but meaningless. But for a rare few, something else happens. They notice, and that awareness changes everything. You're flying. The air feels real. The sensation is undeniable. Then a single thought flickers into existence. Wait, I can't fly. That moment of doubt cracks the simulation open. And once that door opens, you're no longer just dreaming. You're about to face yourself. Level 9. The mirror. This is the moment of awakening. You realize you're dreaming, while the dream is still happening. For the first time, conscious awareness switches on inside the subconscious mind. It feels like standing before a mirror that doesn't just show your face, but the hidden machinery behind it. The glitch becomes a weapon. The broken laws of physics are no longer disturbing. They're useful. This is the ultimate sandbox. You bend weather with a thought. Objects appear from nothing. Walls lose all meaning. You aren't just inside the world anymore. You're building it in real time. Architect, programmer, God. But this power is fragile. Awareness does not equal control. The dream is a volatile system, balanced on a knife's edge. Push too hard, and it destabilizes. The scene blurs. The world dissolves. And sometimes, something worse happens. Across scientific case studies, sleep labs, and countless first-hand reports, the same pattern appears. A lucid dreamer turns to a dream character and says the forbidden sentence. This isn't real. This is just a dream. The response is immediate. The character's expression twists. Anger flashes across their face. You're not supposed to know that. We don't like being watched. Then the others notice. The crowd turns. The atmosphere shifts. What were once passive inhabitants become hostile, swarming the dreamer as the world collapses inward. Why? Because the mirror isn't showing a fantasy. It's showing you yourself. And sometimes, the reflection doesn't like being recognized. But beyond the mirror lies one final state. A level few reach. And even fewer return from unchanged. Level 10. The abyss. You think you've reached the end. You're lucid. You're aware. You've bent the dream to your will. But there's one more door. And beyond it, the dream itself becomes the subject. This is the deepest level, the one with no clear rules. The most common and most terrifying expression of the abyss is the false awakening. You wake up from a nightmare. Relief floods in. You sit up, step out of bed, walk to the bathroom. You look in the mirror. Something is wrong. Your face is distorted. Your features don't line up. Panic hits. And then you wake up again. This time it feels real. The room is normal. The mirror looks fine. Relief returns. Then you look at your hand. 6 fingers. And it happens again. You wake up. And again. And again. Sometimes 7 or 8 layers deep. Each awakening more convincing than the last. Each reality harder to distinguish from the one before it. It's a psychological labyrinth built entirely from your own awareness. A recursion loop with no obvious exit. Why does this happen? One theory suggests the brain is trying and failing to synchronize waking consciousness with sleeping sensory systems. A boot sequence that keeps crashing mid-startup. But here, science starts to lose its footing. This level is also where the strangest claims emerge. Shared dreams, where 2 people insist they visited the same place on the same night. Precognitive dreams, visions of events that seem to occur later in waking life. Neuroscience labels them coincidence. Faulty memory, pattern seeking. But for those who experience them, it doesn't feel internal. It feels like contact. The abyss is the final question mark. The point where data runs out and only testimony remains. where structured explanation collapses into mystery. And it leaves us with one unsettling thought, that the dream world may not end when we reach the bottom, because there may be no bottom at all. If this journey through the 10 levels of dreaming left you questioning the boundaries of your own mind, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Strange Wise for more deep dives into the mysteries of consciousness, ancient secrets, and the unexplained. Comment below which level of dreaming fascinated or terrified you the most. And don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss an adventure into the strange and unknown. Your mind has endless layers. Let's explore them together.